What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid's latest big box expansion. This is Light and Darkness, published by Renegade Game Studios and designed by Jonathan Ying. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
Well, first of all, we want to thank Renegade Games for this review copy. We appreciate the support of the channel. We'd like to remind our viewers that our opinion will remain our own. So this is a cooperative game for ages 14 and above that is designed for 2 to 5 players, expandable to 6, as you see, and as you've seen in previous reviews, we always play 6 players. It plays in about 45 to 90 minutes. Not sure if I mentioned it's for ages 14 and above, so I will say it again. Sorry if I repeated myself.
And what will you be doing in this expansion? Well, you're going to be taking on the roles of Rangers that also have evil counterparts. There are 5 new Rangers in the box. That's why we added Tommy Oliver. It just fits with the theme. So you'll be facing off against your evil counterparts. So you've got Korag, Curse Taizon, Snide, Zenaku, and Daishi, who'll be going up against Taizon, the Mercury Ranger. We've got Heckle, the Dino Charged Dark Ranger, Lianbo, the good version of Korag, Jared, the Black Lion Warrior, who's a good version of Daishi, and then you've got the Lunar Wolf Ranger Merrick going up against Zen Aku. You'll be doing what you typically do with Heroes of the Grids, moving around the board, fighting enemies, defeating enemies to get your Zords, also using the powers of the new locations. Now, I forget the name of the center location. It's the one from Jungle Fury. And in this case, we're going to be using it as the command center. We're keeping it for theme. The ability was okay, but just wasn't our favorite. It lets you recover a couple extra shields at the distance. I don't think they've quite figured out how to beat that command center's power-up ability. What do you think, Julie?
Agreed.
So there you have it. That's what you'll be doing in the game. Moving around and going, yeah! Taking out enemies. On that note, I think we've talked enough about it. It's time to
Grab our drink.
grab our best friend. We're going to take it to the table one more time. So now we're going to take a look at the components for Power Rangers Light and Darkness. This is the latest expansion for Heroes of the Grid. So you get a nice little introduction detailing the different characters, who their opposites are, instructions how to integrate this into the game, rules for the Nemesis in case you don't have any Nemesis content, just new rules for the Elite Foot Soldiers because that is a new thing that's being added in this game, then just some clarifications for the enemies and the heroes, the Lone Wolf, the Dark Energem, Ranger die rules, liquid form with Taizon, some passive enemy effects, and the new Jungle Karma pizza place. Now don't worry, we'll talk about all this stuff and how it worked in our review. So here we've got the 2 new locations, the Paizoa Academy, hopefully I pronounced that right, and the Ocean Bluff Reservoir. Now they both have the other side for the assault mode where things can go, not so well for the heroes. We have the new Megazord token, and just in case you happen to not have the action tokens that you need, there are 2 more action tokens. And of course, there's the Jungle Karma pizza place. Now we're going to take a look at the hero cards first, just so that we can see who we got. So Jared, the Black Lion Warrior, who's also Daishi. We've got Heckle, and who's also Snide when he's the bad guy. We've got Merrick, and then Zenaku, Taizon, the Mercury Ranger, who's also Taizon as a villain, then Lianbo, the Wolf Warrior, and his opposite. Now, since we're on Lianbo, I do want to go through their abilities. We'll take a quick look at their decks, but I don't want to go through all the cards. So for Honor, once per battle, when any Ranger reveals a card for defense with no star ability, you may reveal a card from your hand and use its star ability as though it were revealed for defense. That's really cool. So for Ferocity, once per Ranger turn, you may, instead of playing a card, you may discard 1 card from your hand to perform an attack with 2 dice. Awesome. Dark Pride. When you play a card from your hand, you may play the top card of your discard pile instead. If you do, you must then discard the top card of your deck, so taking a chance there. So with Merrick, we've got the Lone Wolf. During each battle until another Ranger card is played, reduce the energy cost of all Lunar Wolf Ranger cards by 1. That's pretty cool. Then Taizon. Once per battle, before any Ranger rolls any number of dice, you may use this ability. If you do, convert all 0 results to double results and vice versa. Wow. So that's pretty cool. Lots of interesting stuff from the heroes. Now we'll take a look at their miniatures up close. I gotta say, this is definitely one of the most detailed that we've seen so far. And here we've got the miniature for Korag, the Wolf Knight when he is a villain. Here we've got Heko as Dino Charge Dark Ranger. Then we've got the miniature for Snide. Merrick as the Silver Lunar Wolf Ranger. Miniature for Zanaku. Lots of detail. I will say the details on these minis are getting better and better since Renegade started making the game. Definitely more detail on the enemies though. Although we do have a fair bit on the Mercury Ranger. And then we've got his counterpart Tyzon. Here we've got our Lion Black Warrior Jared, and then the evil counterpart form Dai Shi. Here we've got the two type of Rinchis with the Elite Rinchi Warrior, the Rinchi Beasts. And then we've got the standard Rinchi cards. So then we've got cards for all the different characters. We're just really going to focus on their big 3 attack cards. So Night Saber. If this card is revealed for defense, you may treat it as having the star ability of another card in your hand or discard pile. Pretty cool. So, Clandestine Tactics, Dark Energem, his Spino Blade. You may ignore the guard keyword when choosing a target for this attack. While this card is in your discard pile, reduce its energy cost by 1. So that goes with his ability. That's really cool. Claws of the Wolf, Full Moon Slash. So a lot of his stuff costs energy. That's why you want to play his stuff first. His Lunar Q. After you resolve this attack, you may ready 1 exhausted Zord. I like that card, even if it doesn't do a ton of damage. We're on the Mercury Ranger now. Let's see what his big one is. So he doesn't have one. Not at least the same. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I went past it. The Drive Detector. 5 die attack. After rolling, you may remove 1 die from this attack. If you do, any ranger may search their deck for a card and add it to their hand, and then shuffle their deck. Then we've got the Black Lion Warrior. What do we got for his big card? Spirit of the Lion, which is a maneuver until the end of this battle. At the end of each ranger turn, including this one, if you did not perform an attack, you may perform an attack with 2 dice. So that is pretty cool, and it's definitely the type of card you're going to want to play very early on. We're still focusing on the heroes. We'll take a look at their Zords. So, Lion Animal Spirit, exhaust this card before any ranger performs an attack with 3 dice or fewer to add 2 damage to that attack. The Spinozord, exhaust this card at any time. Any ranger may return up to 3 cards from the discard pile to their hand. They must then discard an equal number of cards from their hand, so you can just get back some of your good cards. So the Wolf Warrior, Catastros, exhaust this card when any ranger uses a star ability. That ranger may use that ability 2 more times. The Alligator Wild Zord, exhaust this card when any ranger suffers damage, reduce that damage by 3. Then swap this card with the Hammerhead Shark Wild Zord or the Wolf Wild Zord. The swap card will remain exhausted. So that's how you use the Zords for the Lunar Wolf Ranger, because he does have 3. So that's pretty cool. Exhaust this card during a battle to gain 1 energy and deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. Then you have to swap the card. And then with the Wolf Wild Zord, exhaust this card before any ranger performs an attack. That ranger may draw up to 2 cards and ignore the guard keyword. So, really cool stuff. We got the Rescue Runners for the Mercury Ranger. Exhaust this card before any ranger rolls exactly 3 dice. Treat those dice as if they rolled 1-0 result, 1 hit, and a double. Pretty cool. Now we've got the Predazord. Once per turn. So this is a Megazord. Do we have the Predazord on the other thing here? So last point, yeah, the Predazord I believe is a Megazord, but it's not listed as one, so that's a little odd. Once per turn, when any ranger reveals a card for defense, they may choose to gain 1 energy, deal 1 damage to an enemy card of their choice, or add 1 shield to the revealed card. Now, this might be a standard Zord because it doesn't say Megazord, so I would treat it as a standard Zord for now. The Flashpoint Megazord from Operation Overdrive. Exhaust this card at any time to place the Megazord token in any location. Each time a ranger in that location rolls at least one double result, the ranger may return one card from their discard pile to the bottom of their deck. Not so sure I really like that as a Megazord. I definitely think there are much better Megazords in the game. So now we're going to start by looking at the enemy cards. I just have them all in one stack here. We'll place them here, but as you can see, just the location cards, Ocean Bluff, and the Paizuo Academy. So we got the Rinchi plus the Rinchi Beast combos spread out between those locations. Next, as you can see, we got the cards for the Rinchi Beasts. And they're all different, which I think is cool. Fits with the theme of getting some more enemies into the show. The standard Foot Soldier Rinchis we've got here. Then we got, of course, Korag. A lot of fast cards and guard cards. Ready to do a lot of damage. His cards are backwards. We'll just flip them over quickly. We've got Taizon, Cursed Taizon. So lots of guard. Passive cards, fasting guard. So he's going to be jumping ahead of the Rangers are trying to. Snide has a whole lot of guard and fast. So I do feel like they are realizing that getting fast cards into these decks are very important. Then we got Zenaku with his Nemesis. Increase all damage Zenaku deals to any ranger by 1 for each Zenaku card that has resolved. Deal 3 damage to each ranger. Some nasty stuff. Only one fast card, so he might be a lot easier than he looks there. So fast passive, lots of fast cards, high health cards, and guard, passive, fast guard, passive. Lots of stuff coming from Daishi to ruin your day. And we're not going to go through all of that stuff. We've already been taking a look at these components for about 10 minutes here, so don't want to take up too much more of your time. Now, I'll be getting out of here, and Julie and I will be coming back at you with a review for this expansion. So, Julie, what did you think of Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid's Light and Darkness expansion? I know it just says Power Rangers on it, but the game is Heroes of the Grid, so that's what I'm calling it.
Okay, then. It's funny, every time you bring in another expansion of this, I think, another expansion? How can they keep... I don't know anything about the IP. I've said this.
Well, 30-year anniversary is coming in April, so just to give you an idea, and there's been almost a season a year for 30 years.
So I guess there is a lot of content. So that being said, some of the expansions have kind of melded together. But I find a couple of these characters were more fun and a little bit more memorable than some of the other characters we've played in the past. I enjoyed playing with, I didn't get to play him this time, but with Taizon. I liked Heckle as well. Heckle was fun. Same thing with Merrick. He stood out as well. I honestly, the last game we played, I think I played mainly Merrick. It's just easier to play.
Yeah, his special ability is fantastic. The fact that he gets a discount. Him and Tommy, if you have Tommy, we have him out, we're playing with him as well, just because he fits the light and darkness motif. But both of them are very good solo rangers. I think Merrick's even a better solo ranger than Tommy is.
I think so too. So for Jared, he's a little complex to play. So when you're trying to play him combined with others, I think if you're just playing him, when you're playing a game with multiple people, but we're playing 3 characters at a time, and I found he was a little complex to play when you're playing 3 characters.
I'd agree with you. I think that this really pushes our playstyle, the way that we like to play with the 3 characters, this expansion, a little bit to the limits. There's a couple of things that we missed, and we'll talk about a little later since we want to focus on the Rangers. But I do agree with Julie. Jared, he can do a lot of cool stuff. I think I had more fun playing him than you did just because of the different villains. We've played all the different villains. So if you don't know, Light and Darkness, each of these Rangers has an evil counterpart that we were facing off against, except Tommy, because we already did that a long time ago. And Jared's evil counterpart is Daishi, who's very, very strong. He's the big boss. And Jared works very well against Daishi, I find, because some of his abilities will trigger afterwards, meaning like taking a little extra time to play his Spirit of the Lion and then being able to trigger attacks throughout the entire run against Daishi is really good. The ability to take out any 4-cost card is incredibly good, especially against any of the monsters going up to it. leading up to Daishi, but the fact that all his cards are 5 health means that he has some situational weaknesses that I don't like. Also, I felt that him and Merrick are kind of like at odds because you really want to play Jared's cards as a reaction, but then Merrick loses his discount. So
yeah,
it's just a little funny the way that he works. So good Ranger. I just don't know how well they all fit together. Julie said that she really enjoyed Taizan and Heckle. I'd have to say I enjoyed Taizan. Heckle, not as much. I think Julie had a little bit better cards that showed up in her discard pile that play from the discard, which is really going to affect how Heckle works, meaning you take damage, you get a good card in the discard pile, you're going to have a lot of fun doing a couple of different things. However, he can definitely struggle a little bit. I'd say that this set, and I think we need to talk about Lianbo next, has Taizan, like the 2 Silver Rangers actually, the Mercury Ranger and the Lunar Wolf Ranger are 2 big standouts, and then I think Lianbo's just a solid all-around character. His ability to give other players star abilities, his Zords that trigger star abilities twice when they are revealed for defense, can pair very well with other Rangers with star abilities, so you can just have a nice, awesome defensive powerhouse combo going on. You still want to have some Rangers that don't have those abilities, but if you put them with like Zeo Ranger 5, and I'm drawing a blank at the other Ranger that has it, they can trigger a lot of cool effects. Whereas,
but he's required because you need the defense, and he's got the defensive cards to help with the others, I think.
Yeah, he's very good defensively and offensively. He's just a solid all-rounder, and we found some weaknesses in characters' decks like Jared's, at least in terms of the shields and the cards that you want to have in hand and the cards that you want to play. We actually made a mistake and we ended up losing the round right at the start because Jared ended up taking a ton of damage, and then we realized that in the situation that we'd gone into, if we paid a little bit more attention to what was happening with the enemies, how much damage could potentially come out, Julie shouldn't have drawn up to a full 5 cards just because he needed more defense. So we just kind of reset that battle and continued on. First time we've lost in a while, actually. But as this was for review purposes, we didn't want to start the entire game over. But it just showed us just how there was a couple of different weaknesses, and maybe not all of these characters work together they work together thematically, but not together as a team. Also, what did you think of the Zords overall? I don't think we need to comment on every one of them.
No, well, there's a couple that stood out a little bit more. I can't remember whose it was, but the one that allows you to turn over another Zord, and the one that adds... actually, Black... I have one here. Black Lion Warrior's Zord allows you to add 2 damage to an attack with 3 dice. That was very powerful. I like that one.
Yeah, the Rescue Runners worked well, so as we said, some ways they actually work together. Rescue Runners can guarantee a 3-die attack does 3 damage, so pairing that with the Black Lion Warrior is a great way to kill a card. The Spino Zord has some interesting abilities. The Predazord actually was pretty cool. We use that as Tommy Zords. The fact that it does something every Ranger turn, I thought was just something that was really cool. I liked how the fact that the Lunar Wolf Ranger Merrick changes up his Zords, gets different abilities. It is kind of annoying though, because you're not necessarily going to get the same, because you can only use 1 Zord per round. So depending on how quickly you play, you're going to get to use each Zord only once. So some interesting value there, but also a little annoying. I really like the Anbel Zord as well. I thought they were really good. And then we got the Megazord, who we actually didn't get out for once. But I didn't feel it was like we were missing that much. It's an okay Megazord. It feeds you energy, which goes well with the villains in this deck. The Flash, it's the essentially the Mercury Rangers Rescue Runners becoming the Megazord from Operation Overdrive. But I still prefer other Zords like the Dragozord in battle mode and some of the ones that could just straight up take out a card right off the bat.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. It's a solid expansion. It was fun to play. There's...
I think the only thing to talk about is a little bit with the villains, because we did get the Rinchi, which were fairly annoying, but still standard when it comes to the foot soldiers. I like the Rinchi Beast, the new elite foot soldiers, the fact that they count for 2 and they were stronger and tougher. I thought that was a really solid addition to the game. And when it comes to thematically how the villains work, like because it's light and darkness, I felt that they all worked as a nice inverse of the players that you're playing. Like Snide felt like you're playing against an opposite version of Heckle. Daishi felt like you were playing against Jared. So I think that the theme came across very well. And these are some strong, fun villains to play against. They're not the strongest or the most difficult, but they're very well-rounded and a solid addition to the game.
So who was this last one that we were playing against?
That's Daishi, so that's the opposite of Jared.
Yeah, he was really annoying, draining energy. I mean, we came into that last battle with a fair amount of energy. And the cards that came up were just annoying.
Very annoying. I mean, Snide had some very damaging abilities as well, which mimics some of the stuff that Heckle can do. A lot of, like, interesting control stuff. Also, like, the Rinchies being able to make you discard the top card of your deck when you play a reaction. So, very good villains. Like I said, definitely not necessarily some of the most challenging, but just all around great, I think. This is a very good expansion overall, I would say. I mean, it's been a while, well, not that long since we got this to the table because we were playing the Time Force Rangers, but it's been a while since we played a big box, and I think this is one of the most well-rounded ones that we've seen. I know I've said that a few times. So on that note, I think it's time for us to give our score for Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid, Light, and Darkness. What do you give this one, Julie?
You might be surprised. I'm going to give it an 8. It was a solid expansion. I enjoyed playing it. It felt different compared to some of the others. I know you've been excited about some of them. I think I've said probably because they mean a little bit more to you because you know the IP. But this, from a gameplay perspective, as somebody who doesn't know anything about any of the characters that I'm playing, they were fun to play. Yeah, this is definitely one of the better big box expansions. If we have to look at all of them, I mean, we've got Rangers United back there. We haven't had a chance to play it. But if I'm going to give... I'm going to agree with Julie, actually. I'm going to give this an 8 because I like the gameplay aspects. There was one thing that we neglected to mention. Playing with 3 characters, having some of the enemy cards like Daishi have fast, guard, and passive abilities is definitely pushing the cognitive load a little bit. So that's just something that you want to keep in mind. I think that's what keeps the expansion from maybe getting like an 8.5. 9 for being a really great box is just because of the way we like to play. Other players I don't think are going to have that problem, especially if you play in a larger group. So what I'm saying, we haven't had a chance to play Rangers United. We're going to get it to the table. But if you just have the base game, I can, unfortunately, Julie hasn't played these characters yet. I've done the solo review. If you want some good, cool characters for the game, you want to get the Tommy Oliver pack just to round everything out with him. You want the Dino Thunder Rangers because they are awesome. And we'll try to get your opinion on them because I was really surprised. They're some of the best Rangers in the game. They feel like playing Mighty Morphin again. The team just plays really well together. And then I'd say if you're looking for a big box, I recommend this one over the other ones. Shattered Grid thematically is probably the best, most interesting, but for Rangers and villains, this is probably the best big box we've played yet. And I know we're out of order, but you'll see Rangers United at some point over the course of this year. We'll try to get it out by the end of the first quarter, I think. So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see some pictures of Julie and I playing Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, they're plenty on those feeds. There's also a ton from Light and Darkness that will be in the most recent images, so make sure to check that out. Also down there's a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. So looking for any content from Renegade Games, any Kickstarters, some Heroes of the Grid, make sure that you check them out. Click the link and get 10% off your next purchase. It's a great way to support the channel as a portion of that purchase will be returned to us. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie is going to take you back to a review of the original game. I think about time to remind everyone about that one, Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. So make sure you check that out if you haven't heard our thoughts on it yet. And now we need to
grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend and fellow Ranger. Remind you to keep playing games.